So, that's my play on words. If you look at my blog post, you will see what I'm talking about. Me here, Ryan, Set the Pace Triathlon. I may or may not be in a lot of this, at least the headshot, and bear with me while I pull this down. Escape out of full mode view, and we'll pull into the page. So basically what we're talking about is Ironman Florida 70.3 that's happening this Saturday in 2019. So I've got an athlete doing it for sure. Made a few plans for a couple other people doing it, so I'm following up with them. See how everything's going, touching base, laying out a few tips to have a great race. But there's a few kind of catches coming up. Probably more along the lines of not a storm like Texas to have Sunday, but more as in the weather could be a huge factor. So I just wanted to put it out there. I've done a blog post. So if you hit setthepacetriathlon.com, you hit the blog. Y'all getting this? Let me know if you're not getting it. Send me a message. So you can see here, Ironman 70.3 Florida race course tips. So I just want to do a video of this to help you guys out. Anybody watching, listening, you're thinking, oh crap my pants first half, or I've done 20 of these, what more can you tell me? Maybe I can tell you a few things. But anyway, the intro from the Lego movie kind of plays into my first part. It's coming. Watch your butts. What's coming? Ironman Florida 70.3, that's what's coming. It was funny in my head, so I don't know. Maybe it's entertaining. Maybe it's not for you. But anyway, let's kind of jump into it. I don't want to blab on forever. Keep this short and sweet to the point. The weather is going to be a big factor this year. So hopefully you guys are planning ahead, as in looking at what the race conditions are going to be. Obviously, Ironman Florida or Texas 70.3 last weekend. They had storms roll in the later part of the race. So if you got an earlier waves, you had a better chance of getting it done. But hopefully you know what's coming weather-wise, because if you look at the forecaster for Haines City, Florida, you know, Friday's 90, Saturday's 91 degrees, Sunday's 91 degrees. I like clouds and sun, warm. No crap, it's going to be warm. That's hot. That's not warm, that's hot. And you take it to Florida, it's going to be humid as well. You can guarantee on that. So a few tips to kind of, that's before you begin to the core strategy. Make sure you're staying hydrated before the race. Leading up to it, Ironman Village, sunscreen. Don't get burnt the day before the race, because that would suck to go out and get burnt the day before the race and then go do the race in pain and discomfort and being red already like a lobster. So be hydrated. If, it's only Tuesday now, there are still a few opportunities. If you're living in the Midwest, today's a warm day, but if you're living up north, you're probably getting a snowstorm up in Minnesota and Iowa and Nebraska. It's just crazy right now. So it's very hard to get training, even if you can get outside in the conditions that you're going to experience on race day. A few tips might be, after workout, if you got access to a sauna, you got access to a steam room, go sit in there for 20 minutes, 25 minutes after your workout and work up a good sweat just sitting there. That will help your body kind of acclimate to being sitting around in hot, humid conditions, especially after you've done a workout. It'll make you a little bit more tired. But like I said, make sure you hydrate afterwards. So there are a few opportunities, doing your last minute prep. You shouldn't be doing too much extreme work, especially the week before the race, but maybe a sauna now and again if you have an opportunity. Small room with a heater and just sit there and jack up the heater and just sweat a lot. Get something going on, or do your workouts without a fan in the hottest, sweatiest, swarmiest room you can find in the house. If your spouse, wife, husband, significant other will let you train in whatever room that is. You probably want to back off your goals as far as power, as far as heart rate, as far as times, finishing times, split times. At 90 degrees, you're going to be impacted. It could be a substantial decrease of maybe even 10% or more of kind of what you're capable of. So you've all done in training to this point, your FTP, your heart rates, your zones, scale them back 10%, because race day, unless you're racing and training there and you're used to this kind of temperatures, if you're coming from the Midwest, you're not going to be ready. So scale back your expectations. Don't go in the race just trying to ramrod through what you think you could do and then get to the end of the race and the last 8 miles is a death march and you kind of hate life. You don't want to be at that point. If you manage it well, through the swim and through the bike and beginning the run, you can actually finish pretty good. It might be a little bit slower than the time you want, but it's not going to be a death march at the end. You do the best you can on that day. Swim, I've done this course technically because Ironman Florida last year. I moved from Panama City Beach to Haines City because of the hurricane, so I actually did the pants course. If you notice, it's just a nice pair of pants out there, and it's lots of turns. It's lots of congestion, so be ready for contact. Swim wide of the turns if you don't want to be in contact. You know, in these, you swim. Well, actually, it looks like the course is reversed from the full. So you swim out, you stay on the outside, you're on the inside. So make sure you're sighting because you don't want to veer off into oncoming traffic when you're in the crotch of the pants. The last thing you want to do is hit somebody head on, especially in the crotch of the pants course, that is. Anyway, so be cognizant, do sighting when you're there, you know, and especially if they don't have buoys up. Whenever you get the buoys up, you know, usually it's the day before, make sure you're making landmarks. You know, you're looking across the lake here, quote lake, pond, whatever you want to call it. You know, if there's a house over here, if there's certain landmarks over here, you know, make sure you know where the finish line arch is. Know this stuff before you get in the water, because once you get in the water and you're, you know, elbows deep into it and people are hitting you in the face and you got seaweed all over your hands, it's going to be hard to, okay, how many buoys, how many yellow ones, how many red ones, how many orange ones? You're not going to want to be thinking about that during the race. Either think about it, you know, it's great, something great to keep your mind busy with before the start of the race. Looking at landmarks, looking at buoys. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turn, and then only one more to do the next turn. 1, 2, turn, 1, 2, turn, and then turn, 1, 2, 3, and then finish line. So just know that stuff before you start to swim. That's kind of with any course. Heat, you know, it might be legal. I mean, always bring mind. You never know. It's been cool up before this. If you look at the forecast now, kind of curious myself. 79, 80, so probably not going to be wetsuit legal. You can probably wear one, just not get, you know, awards. You know, I always wear a full suit, even if a race is in the middle of the summer and it's still wetsuit legal, I use it. You might get, I've gotten a little bit overheated, but no, you know, I'm in the water. I don't really, I don't like being cold anyway, so for me it's not a problem. But just be prepared with, you know, your wetsuits, your speed suits, whatever you're going to bring. You never know. Stranger things have happened. It could be nice and cold in the deepest part of this lake. You never know. So bring your stuff. Let's see what else we got here. Look at the course. Relax. Don't just fire through it the first, of course, especially if it's going to be a hot day. From the start, you want to conserve your energy. So don't just like speed out doing your speed sets and then get halfway through and realize you're out of gas and then have to like manage all the rest of this with everybody swimming through. And there will be, at the beginning, it's pretty shallow, there will be vegetation. It will wrap itself around your arms and stuff, so don't freak out. It's not animals. And then just be aware, you know, it's going to get stuck in your watch. It's going to get stuck, you know, everywhere. It's going to be in your caps, around your goggles. I've had to pull everything out, you know, when we did the 2 loops for the full. I got out and I was pulling stuff off, and then when I got finished, I was pulling stuff off too. So just be ready for that. Moving on to the bike. Ignore that. Feel free to sign up for the newsletter if you do hit the website. Remember, setthepacetriathlon.com, www. Then hit the blog, and then you can read up all about this. So if you don't like listening to my voice, you can at least read up the text. Because I thought it was really funny. I felt really inspired when I wrote this up. I think it's pretty fun. There's a few cuss words in there too to kind of, you know, liven it up, give them some color. Anyway, bike course. So the bike is relatively flat. You know, relatively speaking, you know, 1,200 feet of gain, and it looks like we are doing 1 loop. We, I think, did pretty much a similar course for the full last year and did 2 loops. It really wasn't that bad. You know, I come from the Midwest, and it's pretty hilly there, despite what you think. Kansas being flat as a pancake. Not the case when you get to Kansas City. So training here and then going out to the course really wasn't that much of a problem. Just be ready to be an aero. So if you're not training to be an aero the entire time to take advantage of that, it's going to be a long ride if you're going to be sitting in the drops or sitting up on the bars. Just make sure you're ready to take full advantage. Sunscreen. If it's hot and sunny, it might be cloudy, you know. Look at the weekend forecast again. I think it says something about clouds and sun. Just make sure you get your sunscreen. The key is going to be hydrating and staying, you know, up with your nutrition, especially the early part of that bike. As you get through it, you may not be able to ingest as much as far as nutrition, but Usually the general targets are you want to be 1 to 2% dehydrated coming off the bike. You're going to be more than that, especially if it's 91 degrees and the humidity that comes down to Florida. So, you've got to take the minimum of what you take in training, that, or the maximum, whatever you've been doing at the top end of training is your minimum in the race, if that makes sense. So if you're doing 3 bottles of Gatorade on a 56-mile ride and you felt pretty good, that's the minimum. And then you're going to look to do a little bit more, and especially keeping in mind you don't want to get hyponatremia where you're in imbalance of fluids versus the salts and you're diluted your blood. So you got to keep up with the nutrition, you got to keep up with the sports drink, but just stay hydrated, and especially on the bike when you have opportunities to get it and to get refills at aid stations, take advantage. Don't, if you drop a bottle, stop and get it. If you miss a bottle at an aid station, you're out. Go back and get it, because at this point, just be safe. At this point, these kind of conditions, even at a half, for those of you that are well-seasoned Ironman athletes, it can get you. It's bite you in the ass for that temperature and that humidity. So just make sure that you're staying on top of that. And if at any point you kind of feel like you're bonking, that could be that you're just dehydrated. Always pay attention to your clothes. If you got salt all over them because you're sweating so much, stay on top of hydration. Hydration, especially on the bike. If you don't do it there, you're not going to do it on the run, that's for sure. Also, the other key is manage your power, manage your heart rate on the bike, manage your energy consumption, especially if it's going to be hot. So you're backing off 10%. You want to stay in your ranges. If your goal is 175, watts, maybe you do a little bit more in a headwind, maybe you do a little bit more on an uphill climb. There's a few rollers over here. So maybe you go a little bit above. Just don't spike it to 300. And if you get a tailwind, don't just hammer that bike, especially if it's in the first half, to get the best speed you can to get 5 minutes, and then you give up 15, 20 minutes on the run because your legs are just toast by the time you get to the run. So manage it well. Stay to your plan. Even if you feel good the last 10 miles of the bike, don't just hammer it because you think you have the energy left over. There's plenty of time on the run on 13.1 miles to spend all that extra energy you got. So come out of T1, don't gun it because you got all that adrenaline. Keep it under control. Find your zone, find your range. Listen to your body. If you feel overheated, it feels like you're working hard, back it off. Because the bike ride is the time to do that. That's the time to make your shift. You either gain or lose your energy there. Once you get to the run, you can't get it back. You can look through the bushes all you want. You look through aid stations. But all they got is hydration and nutrition. They don't have extra energy just sitting around. Which technically, I guess, nutrition is energy. But anyway, that's beside the point. So that's a bike course. So manage it. Manage it well. Again, go to my blog if you want all the fine points. The run. So this is where I say the race really starts, especially the half on the run. So at the start. So if you go out there and you're, balls to the wall, you got that adrenaline again. I'm off the bike, thank God, and I'm gonna hammer this run because that's my main event. And that's my go-to. If you hammer the first couple miles, you're going to be walking the last miles for sure, especially if it's going to be that hot. The course isn't, 540 feet of total gain. You're going to be doing 3 loops. It's going to be an exercise in mental games out there, because doing these 3 loops, you get the first loop, you're thinking, I can do 2 more. You get through that second one, you're like, I am ready to be done. I wish this was a 3rd loop, and that 3rd loop becomes a death march. And you're just suffering through it. So make sure you're managing that first half of the run just like you're managing the bike. I always tell people, stay in your ranges, remember your zones, back them off, because it's going to be hot, you're going to be dehydrated. Back them off, walk the aid stations, get your fluids, adjust whatever you need to adjust, get your nutrition in. Just make sure that you're squared away on the aid stations. And personally, I switch between Gatorade and water every other aid station. I get something every time, whether I'm running it or walking it. And then when I walk it, I'm drinking, I'm taking it in. Sometimes if I feel like I've gotten too much in my stomach, I might at least just swish around water or sports drink and spit it out. That way I'm not sloshing later, but your body's kind of tricked into thinking you're taking a little bit more hydration, so it's got that little pep. Just make sure that you're paying attention to your body, you're listening, especially in those early miles. When you get to 8 and 9, that's when you're really going to start paying the price. If either you screwed it up on energy management on the bike, or you went out too hard on the run. You're going to feel it in mile 8, mile 9, guaranteed, because I have done all these boneheaded mistakes before, and I've heard it and seen it several times for the athletes I'm coaching. make sure that you're managing that first half race. If you get to mile 10, you're feeling great and you want to hammer at that last loop, hey, knock it out, just go through and speed through every aid station. At that point, you're probably close enough that you can kind of burn what you got and, crash at the finish line. But you don't want to burn what you got, loop one, number one, and then kind of limp through loops 2 and 3. You don't want to be at the aid stations and that guy that's like, oh, you can do it. It sucks. I've been there. It just sucks. So don't be that guy. So that's just a quick overview. I didn't want to be extremely long going on Facebook Live and chalking and just, babbling like I'm doing now. So like I said, go to the blog, setthepacetriathlon.com, go to the blog. When you go there, should be one of the first posts that showed up because I just did it. Unfortunately, it's being a little slow. I am on Wi-Fi and I'm the furthest away from the routers I can get. First post, Ironman 743 Florida race course tips. So read through, got a lot of good stuff, and at the very end, ignore that, or sign up, whichever works. I've got a nice little link to a packing list that I've used personally, and I update every time I go to a race or something like that. It's got links for examples of everything that I use and pack. So just make sure, just read it over and you think, hey, this may be, maybe something I forgot about. Every athlete I've sent this to, there's at least 1 or 2 things that they're like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. So just make sure you check it out. Later on, hopefully within a week or 2, I'm going to develop a kind of a toolkit for half Ironman races, whether you've done 20 of them or this is your first. There should be something in there for you. So this is going to be a part of it. There's going to be race day strategies that kind of line out this whole process I went through the blog to make you at least think about the beginning of the race, or before the race happens, what you're going to do, what your strategy is for all the different courses, what to do before the race, the days leading up to it. It's not just show up and like, oh crap, kind of look at the schedule out of the race day manual and be like, oh, what am I doing? Think about it before you even get there. So check back, website, and that little pop-up for the newsletter. Sign up for that, and you'll definitely be, in the loop for when I develop that toolkit and send that out there. At least hit the blog. You can get that triathlon checklist PDF and get all of the kind of examples of what I use. It was nice to link to the website. And for God's sakes, look what the weather's going to be and plan ahead because it's looking hot. So if you're in Minnesota and you're getting a snowstorm right now and you're packing up your bike, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be nice and warm and toasty. Yeah, it is going to be hot, not just warm. And you want to prepare for that, especially when you're going out there and doing the 70.3 race. So any questions? Hit them up in the comments. Email me. Visit the website. Post a comment on here. You're full of crap. I think this is the worst write-up ever. Or you are awesome and every athlete should listen to you because they do great in their races that they listen to you and then regret the things that they don't listen to and don't do in the race that I told them to do. So there you go. Check it out. We'll talk to you later.